It's been 5 years since we last saw Thrawn and Ezra in the season final of Rebels. However, that's all set to change in the Ahsoka series this summer. Strap in for this one, guys, because it's possibly just been revealed just where Thrawn has been all this time.
How is that possible?
However, the bad news is there's still no mention about Ezra, but that's not to say he's not there as well. And it goes on to say that the location of Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn in Star Wars Ahsoka has possibly been revealed. Let's take a look at this new report, look at how it fits into what we know about the Ahsoka series to date, and how this affects the galaxy going forwards. Fans have questioned where Ezra and Thrawn ended up, and it seems we might have an answer. But before we get into that, let's take it back to the beginning, to the final episode of Rebels. Ezra effectively sacrificed himself to rid the galaxy of Thrawn, and him and Thrawn and the Purgles disappeared into hyperspace to not be seen again up until this point. We get the idea that the Rebels characters, especially Ahsoka and Sabine, are going to continue to look for Ezra and ways to bring him back, assuming he survived. And then after this, the Rebellion wins that decisive battle on Endor, which leads to the Empire, or what's left of the Empire, collapsing. Or so we thought. We believe that too many key figures are out of play now. There are a bunch of disorganized Imperial remnants, but that turns out to not be the case. They're effectively just operating in the shadows and still keeping communications open through the Shadow Council. They've merely just been acting as Imperial remnants, and of course, in the Ahsoka trailer we learned that Thrawn has returned, and this likely sparks hope for Ahsoka and Sabine to think that, well, if Thrawn's returned, then Ezra's likely returned as well, and I think this is going to be the story of the Ahsoka series. But the actual report comes from Bespin Bulletin today. So, it goes on to say, we're just 3 months away from the release of the highly anticipated live-action Star Wars series Ahsoka. The series acts as the successor of sorts to the beloved animated series Star Wars Rebels, which concluded in the spring of 2018. The Ahsoka series also acts as a sort of spin-off to The Mandalorian, following up on threads presented in the hit Disney Plus series. And I think if you didn't know by now, this is the case for The Mandalorian, but also the Book of Boba Fett, Skeleton Crew, and all the other shows they're doing in this time period. And I think there's a new one on the cards as well that's yet to be announced. Now, the series final of Rebels saw a Jedi Knight by the name of Ezra Bridger thwart an attack on his homeworld of Lothal from the villainous Grand Admiral Thrawn and the Empire. In his last stand, Bridger used creatures known as Purgil to trap Thrawn and his army, along with Bridger himself, and used the creatures to jump to light speed to an unknown part of the galaxy. In the series epilogue, two friends of Bridger, Ahsoka Tano and Sabine Wren, set out on a quest to find their lost friend. In the second season of The Mandalorian, Tano confronts Morgan Elsbeth, demanding to know where Grand Admiral Thrawn is. If Ahsoka can find Thrawn, she'll likely find Ezra. Since Rebels wrapped over half a decade ago, that's mad to think that. Over half a decade has gone by since Rebels, and we're only just now starting to find out what's gone on next. Fans have questioned where Ezra and Thrawn ended up, and it seems we might have an answer. So take it with a pinch of salt, but usually these guys are really reliable. According to past reports from Making Star Wars, Thrawn and Bridger are located in either a new galaxy or a part of the galaxy we've never seen before, something they referred to as the New Beyond. However, Making Star Wars recently shared a report which detailed a more specific location, the Nodian Highlands. According to the outlet, a large fight will take place in the Nodian Highlands between Ahsoka Tano, Sabine Wren, Morgan Elsbeth, Baylan and Shin. Why do we think this is the possible location of Thrawn and Ezra? Well, Making Star Wars reports that Morgan Elsbeth has been constructing a large vessel that will venture out into the unknown to locate and bring back Grand Admiral Thrawn, and that somehow Tano and Wren follow Elsbeth and company to the location. If Elsbeth is taking this vessel to Thrawn and she lands at the Nodian Highlands, it's possible that this is the planet where Bridger and the Grand Admiral have been stranded. It's unlikely that the planet itself is called the Nodian Highlands, they said, but it's more than likely just a specific part of that planet. Perhaps the planet itself could be called Nodia, which is a fair guess to me as well. Now, to me, these rumours sound legit. Not only does it come from a very credible place, but they're not too out there. They're not too wild that you struggle to picture them. You know, this could very much be what actually happens in the Ahsoka series. Now, I can't wait to see the characters from Rebels appear in live action, but we do know that there's one that's not going to be making a comeback, and that is Kanan Jarrus. Not because he's dead, because we know Jedi can appear as Force ghosts, but the actor himself, or the voice actor himself, Freddie Prinze Jr., has ruled out ever returning to Star Wars and really dismissed ever playing a role in Star Wars again. But talking about ghosts here just for a moment, and what we saw in the Ahsoka trailer and how this relates to this article is we see a clip from Ahsoka where she appears to be in the world between worlds, or around the world between worlds, or at least near its portal. That could very much be an earlier attempt to rescue Ezra Bridger right before he jumped to hyperspace with the Purgles, only for that to not exactly pay off because we see Balin there, and of course that's not how he returns according to reports like this. And then she resorts to tracking Morgan Elsbeth. Now if you remember, them two had that fight in The Mandalorian Season 2. Ahsoka won, she walked out with the staff. She didn't kill Morgan Elsbeth. Why is that? Maybe because she is a clue that will lead Ahsoka to Thrawn eventually. So she keeps her alive, but keeps a close track on her. If she suspects that Morgan Elsbeth is still serving Thrawn, which ultimately leads to him most likely still being alive in her opinion, it would only make sense for her to see who goes in, who goes out of that compound, communications in, out, and follow all of her movements. And if that is the case, then that would make complete sense for Ahsoka and Sabine Wren following Morgan Elsbeth to Nodia, where they discover Thrawn, or, you know, get a close idea or a hint to where Ezra's going to be. Although we've seen Thrawn in the Ahsoka trailer, I wouldn't get too hyped up about having him all the way through and this is going to be some big fight between Ahsoka and the heroes and Thrawn. That's going to very much be saved, I think, for Dave Filoni's movie. But what this series is going to give us, I believe, is a solid background of Ahsoka in live action, what she's been up to since the season final of Rebels, and I think in a similar vein to The Mandalorian, it's very much going to build the galaxy around them with the New Republic, with the Imperial remnants, or whatever you want to call them now, because they're not as scattered as we once thought. And then eventually we're going to build up to that Thrawn return, and then that's going to be further explored and expanded upon in the shows that follow, be it Skeleton Crew, because I believe that kind of takes place in a similar location to where Thrawn is, and possibly even Ezra, and heck, that might even be where Ezra makes his appearance in the Skeleton Crew series, but also in Mandalorian Season 4 and any other shows they put out between now and Dave Filoni's movie. But the bottom line we can take away from here is, it looks like we might know now where Thrawn's actually been. The down point is, there's not really any word on Ezra Bridger at this point, and I'm actually doubting myself whether he's actually going to appear in the Ahsoka show. If he does, I think it'll be right at the end. And of course, Nodia seems to be a completely new planet, if that's actually what it's called. The Nodia Highlands had never been mentioned in Star Wars before. So even though we know what the place is called, we don't know anything else about it. But perhaps more of that will come out in time. Guys, thanks for watching today's video. Remember to subscribe if you're new, leave a like as well. It's massively appreciated. I'll catch you in the next one. This is the way.